So, as it turns out, Nintendo can't stop and is in fact addicted to the shindig. And in this case, the shindig is filing patents for insane things that already existed long before Nintendo ever created them. And in this case, the one I'm talking about is a patent that has been filed in the United States and in Japan for what is effectively first-person shooter arcade games. It gets a little bit more detailed than that, but it's effectively first-person shooter arcade games. So if you ever played one of those laser gun arcade games, like I used to play a lot when I was a kid, it's kind of that. You know, House of the Dead, Fireteam Raven, a lot of those ones. It is effectively for that. Now, you might be wondering, well, when did the first one of these come out? Because maybe they can do this. Maybe this is within the statute of limitations. Immediately, no, because these things have been around for decades. The very first arcade shooter game came out in 1975. It was called Western Gun or Gunfight in Japan, and it came out in 1975. The statute of limitations for filing a patent in Japan is 6 months. So it has been 100 times as long as they need to file that patent in Japan, and the statute of limitations in the United States is 1 year. So it's been 50 times as long as they need to file that patent in the United States. Now, the patent they're filing right now, and to be clear, they are filing this patent. They have not been granted this patent. The patent was filed for in Japan on March 15th, 2024. It was filed for in the United States on February 21st of this year. It just went public in the United States on September 18th, 2025. Public does not mean granted. Public just means it is public. We can see it. We the people can see that this patent is being filed. I hope to God it's not granted because it's so stupid, but I'm going to go over the patent real quick. I'm going to go over the claims of the patent. I'll link the actual U.S. Patent Office document in the description, so if you want to read it in a bit more detail. The background and summary is longer than I want to go over in this video, so I'm just going to go over the claims to show what the patent is basically trying to cover. Apologies for the kind of disjointed nature of this video. I read through this patent a few times. I read through this patent application a few times, and every time I reread through it, it made a little bit more sense to me, or something confused me a little bit more because of just the wording of how these patents work. So I'm doing my best to explain it and explain the parts that I'm not quite sure about. I do reach a conclusion at the end of the video that kind of explains it a little bit better, and it has a little bit more understanding to it. But also understand I'm not a patent lawyer and I don't work in tech, so there's things that I might be wrong about. But I would love your insight in the comments on what is going on and what you think is going on with this and how you feel about it. But rest of the video. Abstract, a non-limiting example shooting game system, comprises a game control PC that is communicably connected with a plurality of gun PCs. A shooting device is electrically connected to each of the gun PCs. The shooting game system is applied to an entertainment facility, and that's also big entertainment facility, and a plurality of AR markers are arranged side by side on a floor surface of the entertainment facility between a placement table of the shooting device and a front screen. Each shooting device is provided with an infrared camera module, and the AR marker is imaged by an infrared camera, and a position and a posture of the infrared camera are calculated based on an imaged image. Each of a plurality of players shoots at a target displayed on the front screen using the shooting device. A shooting direction for each player is calculated based on the posture of each infrared camera at a time of shooting, and an intersection point on the front screen by the shooting device is calculated for each player. So it basically described that this is a screen that has markers on it that you can shoot at with an infrared gun, and multiple players can shoot at it. And one of the things, if you go into the longer background and summary, it tries to claim is that, it's really hard for these systems to mark which characters, which players shot which thing, and that's one of the things that this is fixing, and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. Back in House of the Dead, the original House of the Dead, you could keep track of who hit what, because you got a score at the end. But anyways, Claim 1. A shooting game system comprising a screen that is provided upright on a floor surface to be displayed with an image, like the arcade cabinet, or any of the other ones that have big screens, really big screens if you've been to some of those arcades. A plurality of markers that are arranged side by side on the floor surface, sitting position or standing positions, or sitting positions. A plurality of shooting devices, each provided with a camera that images the marker, so the gun that you're shooting with that has a camera for some reason. The camera being set in a direction different from a shooting direction of the shooting device, and one or more processors, wherein the one or more processor calculates for each of the plurality of shooting devices, and based on an image of the marker that is imaged by the camera, coordinates in a virtual space corresponding to an intersection point between the shooting direction of the shooting device corresponding to a position and a direction of the camera and the screen, and makes the shooting game be executed using operation inputs of respective shooting devices and the coordinates of the virtual space. You have light gun, was what they call them, and it shoots. And the only unique thing I kind of see about this is it has a camera, but that's Claim 1. The shooting game system, according to Claim 1, further comprising a setting place that the shooting device is set, wherein the plurality of markers are located between the screen and the setting place. Claim 3, the shooting game system, according to Claim 1, wherein the shooting device comprises a barrel portion and the camera is arranged inside a tip end of the barrel facing diagonally downward from the shooting device. So there's a camera in the barrel that is facing downward from the shooting device. I'm not sure. I think this might be the thing that gets them this, because it's unique, because I've never played a arcade shooting game that had like a camera, but I don't know what the purpose is. Claim 4, the shooting game system, according to Claim 3, wherein the barrel portion has a shape that an upper side is projected ahead compared with the lower side in the tip end of the barrel position. Claim 5, the shooting game system, according to Claim 1, further comprising a plurality of light-emitting devices that are arranged above the markers and emit light towards the marker, wherein the marker reflects the light emitted from the light-emitting device. So all these arcade shooting games, the light gun shoots like an infrared light. It shoots basically kind of an infrared laser, and that's how it determines where you hit. Claim 6, the shooting game system, according to Claim 1, wherein the one or more processors selectively sets based on an image that is imaged by the camera, a shooting device selecting mode that allows the player to select one shooting device from a plurality of types of shooting devices, that the cameras are being activated, and a shooting game mode that allows the player to perform the shooting game in a state where the camera of the selected shooting device is being activated, and lowers a frame rate of the camera in the shooting device selection mode than a frame rate of the camera in the shooting game mode. These patents for video game mechanics are always, or game mechanics in general, or most patents, can be kind of hard to read. Here's what it says: a shooting device selecting mode that allows the player to select one shooting device from a plurality of types of shooting devices in games like Time Crisis or a few other ones, or in a lot of these shooting games now, you can switch which weapon you're using. I think this is kind of covering that, and I think what this is doing, again, I'm not an expert. I would need an expert to come in and explain this legalese a little bit more to me, but I think what this is getting at is it allows you to select the shooting device like every arcade shooter game has now, and based on the shooting device that you selected, like if you have a shotgun that has a certain firing speed versus a machine gun that has a different firing speed, it changes the frame rate of the camera to fit the firing speed of that weapon. So that way it can lower how fast the thing is firing inside the device. So if the camera's frame rate is slowed, and the laser, the infrared light emitting device is not firing fast, my hair is all kind of jacked up right now, is not firing fast enough, then it kind of fixes the firing rate that way. I think that's what that's getting at, is it's basically explaining how it determines the firing rate. Claim 7, the shooting game system, where according to Claim 6, wherein after the end of the shooting game mode, the one or more processors set based on the image that is imaged by the screen, a shooting device return mode that is determined whether the shooting device is placed to a predetermined position in a state where the camera of the selected shooting device is being activated, and lowers the frame rate of the camera at the time of the shooting device return mode than the frame rate of the camera at the time of the shooting game mode. I think this is about returning the gun to the default gun. I'm not sure. That's kind of what it's saying to me. I hate reading these so much because I have to spend so much time trying to figure out what they're saying. And I've looked through this, and it's still, every time I reread it, it's a pain. So I think that is resetting the game. I think that's what that is resetting the game and restarting with the default weapon. Claim 8, the shooting game system, wherein according to Claim 6, wherein the one or more processors displays on the screen based on an image of the markers that is imaged by the camera, an image that allows the players to select one shooting device when the plurality of shooting devices are turned to the screen in the shooting device selection mode. Okay, so that is, I believe what this is saying is allows, even though, like, say you have 4 players in front of this arcade cabinet. You have 4 players in front of this arcade cabinet, and one of them has gun and another one has gun, but this one's the one that's going to be shooting. So you don't want this guy's, pulling the trigger to count. So it just turns on this guy. This one right here, my right hand, that's the one that's shooting, kind of thing. I think that's what that's getting at, is basically allows you to pop up an image that selects, player 1 only, player 2 only kind of thing, which exists in games already. Claim 9, the shooting game system, according to Claim 5, where the light emitted from the light emitting device is an infrared light, and the marker includes a plate-like substrate that is arranged on the floor surface and reflects the infrared light. A first layer that is formed on the substrate and transmits the infrared light. A second layer that is formed on the substrate to be the adjacent to the first layer that absorbs infrared light, and a third layer that is formed on the first layer and the second layer and transmits the infrared light. This is the part that's confusing me, and if you can help me understand this a little bit more in the comments, because maybe I'm just dumb, but I wanted to cover this because I just saw this, and I'm trying to figure it out a little bit still. But this is the part that I can't understand. What is the thing on the floor? Because it's responding to a camera. So I think maybe what it's supposed to be is like, okay, so in Time Crisis, when you want to get behind cover, I believe it's Time Crisis, I might be thinking of a different one. When you want to get behind cover, there's a device on the floor, there's a pedal on the floor, and you push that. Maybe this is making it so that you don't push that. Maybe it's responding to the light somehow. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the floor device part of this is, that's facing the floor part of this is supposed to be about. So that one I'm not going to really opine on too much because I'm very confused. Claim 10, the shooting game system, where according to Claim 9, wherein the first layer and the second layer of the marker are formed same or almost same height. Having two things at the same height is a claim that you want to have. Okay. Claim 11, the shooting game system, were according to Claim 1, further comprising a projector that projects an image on the screen, and the screen is arranged in a curved shape in a longitudinal direction. You know what? I think I might have figured it out. As I'm reading this, I think I might have figured it out, because part of what this patent is about, part of what this patent is kind of about, is it using your positioning to determine where the gun is facing, where the light gun is facing a little bit, or where you are positioned. So I think what this is getting at is there are markers on the floor. The camera is facing, and again, I might be wrong here, but this is more of a me putting this out there, and let's crowdsource some answers maybe, and I'm going to use what I know to try to guide that. There's markers on the floor. The camera is facing the markers on the floor, so that way, say the screen I'm looking at right now is the main screen, and I'm facing forward, and I have this bottle is weapon, water bottle weapon. I have weapon. The game can determine where I am facing based on weapon has camera facing down looking at marker. So if I turn this way, it notices that marker over there now, and marker in different orientation to camera than it was before. So it knows I turned this way or this way. I think that's what this is getting at, which I don't know whether or not that is wholly unique or not, because that gets into the same space as VR. That gets into the same space as VR. I read this a few times. I read this thing a few times to try to understand everything, and I was prepared to say, I don't know what this claim means. But rereading it again and talking to the camera while I'm doing it, it's helping me understand it a little bit more, and I think that's what's going on. I think that's what the floor-facing part of this is to determine the orientation of the player based on the orientation of the player compared to the markers. The fact that comprising a projector that projects an image on the screen, that's just a projector. I don't think that should be patentable anymore. That shouldn't be uniquely patentable. Someone already did that forever ago. And Claim 12 is entertainment facility provided with the shooting game system according to Claim 1. So an arcade, Claim 12 is the arcade that has all of this in it. They have a patent on arcades being able to have this, which would mean that if you manage to get a hold of this, I assume, I might be wrong, that if you manage to get a hold of this device, you wouldn't be able to have an arcade with this device without the permission of Nintendo. Now, again, that's the claims as it goes through. Sorry for the kind of disjointed nature of doing this. Part of these were kind of hard for me to understand until I was reading it to you. I read through it a few times. I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about the stuff that I do understand, basically, or I think I understand. And then as I was rereading, I was like, wait, hold on, something was clicking in my head. I'm also very tired. I just got back I spent 20 hours over the weekend on the road, and then a day doing manual labor. So I'm exhausted. But I wanted to get to this, and I'll be following this one probably too to see if anything more happens. My quick breakdown of this. This appears to be for arcade first-person shooter game, with the only unique thing based off of my experience playing arcade first-person shooter games, and I might be wrong because this might already exist. The only semi-unique thing about this version of an arcade shooter game, arcade light cabinet shooter game, is the fact that there is a camera on the bottom of the gun that keeps track of markers to determine your position in relation to the cabinet, so it can determine your position in the game. That And I might be wrong about that. That's how it's reading to me. If you have a different theory on it, please leave it in the comments. But that's how it's reading to me. I might be wrong on that. And I don't know if that's because there's 12 claims in here. I don't know if that's wholly unique. And either way, Nintendo, stop it. Just stop. Stop trying to patent everything. Because one, also, like, some VR systems use things similar to that to determine your position in relation to stuff. There's other things that I know that use cameras to determine your position. It's stupid. Either way, they're trying to now they're trying to patent effectively a slight increase in arcade first-person shooter games. I think it's stupid. If you have thoughts in the comments about this, please let me know. If you can understand this a little bit better than me, maybe please let me know. I'm also very tired, so I might come back to this in the future and look at it with a little bit more detail and see if I can do a little bit more research on the specific word choice they're doing. I read it a few times, not sure. But anyways, that's that. I need to get a better laptop so that I can start recording stuff when I see it. Like, even if I'm traveling, like, just take a little traveling recording kit so I can see it. But because I saw this on Friday and I wanted to record it and I couldn't. But if you made it this far, please leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe. Every bit of engagement helps the video do a lot better. If you are interested in supporting the channel in a slightly more direct way, sign up for memberships. The membership info is down below. Every dollar of the memberships is going to go straight to my editor till it reaches a point where I can afford to hire him on full time, which would allow me to put out more content, more research content, and more just kind of off the cuff content more consistently and work on some of the bigger projects that I have. With that, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to try to eat some food and get some coffee because I am tired. Bye.